There exists, just beyond the veil of ordinary awareness, a subtle thread that weaves everything together, a golden filament connecting your inner world to the vast unseen intelligence that governs the dance of stars, the bloom of a flower, the unfolding of every moment. Some call it the mind of the universe. Others refer to it as the source, the logos, or simply the divine matrix. Yet regardless of the name, it is not separate from you. It is not a distant God perched above the clouds, but a pulsing intelligence in which you live, move, and have your being. To speak to it is not a matter of language or ritual. It is the art of resonance, of tuning the frequency of your thoughts, emotions, and intentions to the hidden rhythm of existence. It is the act of whispering your truth into the eternal ear of the cosmos and learning to hear the whisper that comes back. But how does one speak to the universe? Not in the way we speak to one another with words and syntax. The mind of the universe does not listen to what you say. It listens to what you are. Your thoughts, yes, but also your emotions, your beliefs, the silent architecture of your inner world. These are the syllables with which you shape your reality. Every fear, every dream, every conviction is like a note plucked on the strings of a cosmic harp vibrating outward, influencing patterns you cannot yet see. And in return, the universe answers, through synchronicities, symbols, subtle redirections. It is a conversation, but one that flows beneath language, speaking in the grammar of energy and the punctuation of alignment. We were not taught to hear it. We were taught to seek, to chase, to solve. We were trained to speak louder, act faster, do more. But the universe does not respond to noise. It responds to coherence. And coherence begins in silence, in presence. Only when you become still enough to notice the subtle nudge, the intuitive pull, the soft magnetic invitation beneath the chaos of thought, only then can you truly begin to speak to the mind that has never stopped listening. To change your reality, you do not need to force the world to bend to your will. You need only shift the lens through which you perceive, and the inner tone with which you vibrate. The universe does not mirror your wishes, it mirrors your frequency. And frequency is shaped not only by what you think, but by the deep, often unspoken assumptions you hold about life, about yourself, about what is possible. If you believe the world is against you, it will conspire to prove you right. If you begin to believe it is alive, loving, and responsive, it, too, will rise to meet you in kind. This is not a metaphorical idea. It is a metaphysical truth, one known to mystics, sages, and spiritual scientists across millennia. From the emerald leaves of the Hermetica to the sutras whispered beneath Bodhi trees, from Sufi poetry to quantum field theories, there echoes a single breathtaking truth. Reality is not fixed. It is fluid. It is participatory. It is listening, and it will bend, not to your command, but to your clarity. There is a secret language behind everything that exists. It is not made of words or images, but of vibrations and principles that operate behind the curtain of the visible world. This language governs how the unseen becomes form, how thought translates into events, how desire transforms into destiny. To understand it, to truly speak to the mind of the universe, you must first recognize that your outer reality is a reflection of a deeper inner architecture. The mind is not separate from the world. It is the hidden mold in which the world takes shape. The first essential concept is that of the mind as a creative mirror. What you hold in focus, consistently and emotionally, doesn't just attract similar experiences. It literally shapes the way the universe unfolds around you. This is not a mechanical or linear process because the timing of the universal mind is not the timing of clocks, but it is an unfailing process. Reality is pliable, moldable, responsive, and what you silently cultivate, not what you superficially wish for, but what you deeply believe, will be revealed sooner or later in the patterns of your life. The second principle is resonance. Everything vibrates, and everything that vibrates seeks coherence. Just as two tuning forks vibrating at the same frequency can influence each other from across a room, so too do your thoughts, emotions, and intentions send out signals into the universal field. Possibilities that resonate with your internal frequency rise to the surface. Those that do not remain invisible, like doors whose keys are encoded in your emotional state. Then comes the power of attention as a creative force. The universal mind is infinite in potential, but your attention selects what becomes form. When you give something continuous focus, whether it's a fear or an inspired vision, you are energizing that line of reality. You are writing, often unconsciously, an energetic script that life will begin to follow. Attention is the brush with which you paint the vibrational landscape of what comes next. This is why the ability to focus with intention, presence, and clarity is one of the greatest keys to transformation. These principles are braided with a deeper understanding that the universe is not a cold, indifferent machine. It is an alive, symbolic, sensitive intelligence. It responds through symbols, metaphors, archetypes, as if the world were a lucid dream revealing itself through the language of the subconscious. How you see yourself, what you expect from life, what you silently repeat inside, all of it communicates something to the cosmic mind, and it replies with mirrors, encounters, events, blessings or disruptions, each carrying messages about what you are truly resonating with. But to speak this language, you need more than technique. You need presence, because the universe does not respond to what you say you want. It responds to what you truly are in this moment. And that requires alignment between thought, emotion, body, and action. When you think one thing, feel another, and act in contradiction, your signal to the universe is fragmented. But when there is harmony, when your intentions match your emotional tone and your behavior, the response becomes unmistakable. The universe cannot ignore someone who speaks its language with vibrational integrity. Finally, there is the idea of the unified field, echoed by mystics and modern physics. Alike, everything is connected. You are not an isolated observer, but an expression of the very consciousness trying to remember itself. And in remembering, you don't just speak to the universe, you awaken as part of it. Reality, then, is no longer a stage of uncertainty. It becomes a responsive mirror, a mirror that listens, reflects, and transforms, as you do. There is a hidden current of wisdom that has always flowed beneath the surface of ordinary life, a stream of archetypal stories and symbolic gestures that, once seen, reshape how we experience the world. These are not mere myths or poetic decorations. They are coded messages from the deeper layers of consciousness designed to awaken those ready to listen. To speak to the mind of the universe is, in many ways, to re-enter these symbolic landscapes with new eyes, and to realize that they were never just stories. They were maps. In one such tale, an ancient sage is said to have stood silently before a mountain for days, offering no prayers, no mantras, no chants. When asked what he was doing, he simply replied, "I am synchronizing my breath with the pulse of the world." That mountain, according to the legend, eventually shifted its own mist to reveal a hidden path, not because the sage asked, but because he aligned. This story isn't about miracles. It's about the magnetic power of inner coherence. The universe responds not to words, but to states of being. Another symbolic image often seen across mystical traditions is the spiral. From the coiling of galaxies to the shape of DNA, from the shells on the shore to the energy centers within the body, the spiral reflects a truth that linear minds struggle to grasp. Evolution is not a straight line. It moves inward and outward, at once unfolding like a sacred dance. When you speak to the universe with linear demands, one asking, "When will this happen?" or "Why hasn't that changed?" you may be missing the rhythm. But when you begin to move in spiral consciousness, embracing cycles, patterns, pauses, and returns, you become fluent in the geometry of transformation. There's also the mirror, a sacred motif across countless esoteric teachings. The world as taught in Hermetic philosophy is a reflection of the mind. What you resist externally is often what is disowned within. What you are drawn to may be a fragment of your soul, calling you home. When a challenge appears again and again, it is not punishment. It is a mirrored echo, patiently awaiting recognition. To speak to the universal mind is to look into this mirror with radical honesty, and to answer not with fear but with clarity. I see you. I accept the lesson. I transform. Perhaps the most profound of all symbolic narratives is that of the inner temple, the sanctuary not built by hands, but within the heart and consciousness of each person. In this temple, Silence is the prayer, and presence is the offering. There, the mind of the universe is not distant or abstract. It is intimate, immediate. It does not dwell in the heavens alone, but within the still chamber of your being, where truth cannot be masked, and intention becomes alchemy. These stories do not belong to any one culture. They emerge wherever humans touch the edge of the ineffable. They remind us that the universe speaks not in instructions, but in invitation. And if we're willing to read its metaphors, to feel the hidden currents within each symbol, we begin to realize that life itself is not just something happening to us. It is something speaking through us. It is easy to relegate these insights to the realm of the mystical, to treat them as poetic truths reserved for the few who walk barefoot through sacred groves or sit in eternal meditation. But the mind of the universe is not confined to mountaintops or temples. It is as present in your morning routine as it is in the depths of silence. To speak to it, and to allow it to reshape your reality, is not about escaping the world, but about engaging with it differently, practically, consciously, aligned. Consider the simple act of waking up, before thought takes over, before the habitual noise of the day begins. There is a brief opening, a liminal space where the subconscious still speaks, and the universal mind can be clearly heard. In this moment, what you feel, what you affirm, what you focus on, it matters. It sets a tone. When you begin your day by anchoring into presence, breathing deeply, and feeling gratitude not as a performance, but as a vibration, you send out a signal. That signal does not vanish. It interacts with the field around you. It weaves into the fabric of your unfolding day. This is not wishful thinking. It is the beginning of energetic authorship. Reality, after all, is not static. It is relational. It responds to how you meet it. And each moment is an opportunity to meet it with intention. When you speak internally with fear, the world seems hostile. When you speak with quiet certainty, even chaos begins to organize around your calm. Speaking to the universe, then, is not about asking for things. It's about embodying what you want to receive and now, before it arrives. Another practical path is attention hygiene. Every interaction, every piece of content you absorb, every story you tell yourself reinforces a particular signal. Are you giving attention to that which empowers, clarifies, or aligns? Or are you unconsciously feeding distortion, fear, and fragmentation? Speaking to the mind of the universe requires you to become a curator of input, not from a place of avoidance, but from awareness. What you allow into your field becomes the raw material of your vibration. In the realm of relationships, the same principle applies. When you expect conflict, distance, or betrayal, you often unconsciously create the conditions that provoke them. But when you hold people in a higher vision, not naively but with wise compassion, the field around you shifts. You are no longer reacting from wounds. You are responding from alignment. And this changes the kinds of experiences that magnetize to you. Others feel this. The universe feels this. The body, too, becomes a powerful antenna. What you eat, how you breathe, the rhythms you keep, all contribute to your vibrational clarity. A body in disarray sends static through the signal. A body that is grounded, nourished, rested, it sharpens your ability to receive, interpret, and respond to the subtle cues of the field. This is why many ancient traditions emphasize embodiment as a sacred act, not a distraction from the spiritual, but a vital gateway into it. The practical mind may still ask, but does it work? That question assumes a mechanical universe, one that reacts predictably to inputs like a machine. But the mind of the universe is not a vending machine. It is a living mirror. It reflects not your instructions but your state, and states are cultivated, practically, daily, with intention, with patience. So begin not with trying to manifest a result, but with becoming the person for whom that result is natural. Ask not how to control the outer world, but how to cultivate the inner one so that outer conditions rearrange themselves without force. Start small, with presence, with listening, with cleaning up the signal, and reality will begin to respond in ways that feel like coincidence, but are far from random. They are confirmations, the universe nodding back. Every real-world change begins in the unseen. The call you receive, the opportunity that opens, the insight that lands out of nowhere. They are not accidents. They are echoes, reflections of the conversation you've been having in silence all along. There's a point in every seeker's journey where the question shifts. It no longer sounds like, how can I change my life? But rather, what part of me must awaken in order for reality to meet me differently? In this moment, a veil lifts, not all at once but in layers, revealing that the world you move through is not fixed, not indifferent, not distant. It is responsive, and it has been listening to you long before you learned how to listen back. To speak to the mind of the universe is not a skill to be mastered, but a remembering of your own participation in the great symphony of existence. You are not separate from it. You are not an observer peering into a silent cosmos. You are a note in its chord, a breath in its rhythm, a word in its living script. And every time you align, in thought, in emotion, in presence, you realign the geometry of your life with a greater harmony. This harmony does not impose itself. It invites, and it waits. The world will continue to offer distractions, noise, narratives that keep you locked in loops of reaction and defense. But underneath it all, something quieter calls. It calls in the spaces between thoughts, in the stillness before sleep, in the moments where your breath deepens for no reason at all. That call is the universe asking, will you remember? Not in theory, but in presence, in trust, in the courageous act of choosing to live as if the invisible responds, because it does. And as you walk forward with this awareness, the need for control begins to dissolve. You realize that power does not come from force, but from alignment. That change does not arise through struggle alone, but through clarity of vibration. That you do not need to shout your desires into the void. You only need to become them, to embody them, to resonate with what you are asking for so fully that the universe has no choice but to respond in kind. Let this be your shift, from asking to aligning, from forcing to tuning, from reacting to remembering. Let the question now become, how can I refine my signal? How can I make myself into a vessel through which the greater harmony flows unhindered? For when you speak to the universe from this place, not with desperation, but with resonance, the response is inevitable. Subtle at first, perhaps, but unmistakable, because the field always reflects. So walk gently, but walk with power. Speak less, but speak with presence. Watch how reality begins to ripple in response to your stillness, your coherence, your courage. And when the signs come, the synchronicities, the shifts, the inner peace that seems to appear for no reason, know that you have entered into true dialogue. You are not just living in the universe. You are in communion with it. And in this communion, your reality will not merely change. It will recognize you.